The challenging Tactica with Kingdom Death Monster. One of the great things about this game is the literal discovery, the AI of the monsters and how they fight, the various encounters as you move through the Lantern Years, whether that's the core or with the expansions, and crafting gear, making those hard decisions. And the interesting thing about the community, there's a lot of secrecy involved, and that secrecy is out of love, and that secrecy is out of respect, because so much of the game hidden literally in that black box, that unknown box, that adventure is figuring it out on your own, confronting it on your own, making those decisions. We're not even talking about one playthrough. It's literally a new and different story every single time. So when we get into tactics and we get into the various things you can craft, a lot of things in the community, and this is good, are kind of silent. And I've been being pushed more and more for Kingdom Death Monster because it's a game that I love. It's a game that I regularly play. It's a great game to play solo. It's a great game to set up as a group and work through the story, making those decisions, half Tactica, half storytelling. I'm going to push out more. We'll do some live plays soon, so if you're interested, we can experience that. But I have to agree, and pushing out ideas, not necessarily keeping it generic, but being careful. So with that, essentially, that's just a lead-in disclaimer. Let's talk about the survivors themselves. And without giving away any spoilers, for each encounter, there are different levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3. And the idea being that the core AI deck at level 1, as it jumps to level 2, level 3, it's going to hit a lot harder. It's going to be more advanced, and it's going to have more, what we'd say, power or special moves, but in keeping with the personality of what you're fighting. So that knowledge gained from previous fights at whatever level, you kind of have an idea. You kind of have an idea of how the monster is literally going to act. It's just raged up that much higher. The payoff is, of course, in materials. You're going to get more resources dropped. You might get rarer resources dropped. And as your settlement expands, there's this constant economy of you need resources, not only to start crafting items and upgrading your items, but also resources to build out new opportunities to build even newer items, aspects to your settlement, pieces of your settlement. So the hunts are not only about the experience and gaining knowledge and leveling up your characters, your survivors, but at the same time, having that income, having that economy resource coming in. So the question becomes, when you jump to the higher level fights, what are some of the tactics to keep in mind? Because really quick, every fight is deadly in KDM, but you are going to cross an invisible line where things go from hard to extremely hard. And it's not a question of winning the fight. You might win the fight, but regardless, you're going to pay a terrible price to the survivors, their sanity or the literal destruction of their body. Now, early on, you get used to the fact that this is a survivor-based game. It's not D&D where you have literally the same character and they're just going to go from level 1 to level 20 and you're going to be epic. No, it's, again, this constant resource of you're sending out survivors to hunt. They're getting mauled. They're making sacrifices for the literal community, and you're constantly replacing them. And, of course, you have to mind your population, that decision tree, because you could make it to the mid-Lantern Years and just gas out because there's no more survivors. A couple of bad hunts just destroys your hunting party, your warband. You are done. So when you jump to the higher level encounters, early ones, yeah, you might be able to pull it off. You might be able to take some damage. You might be able to pull it off. Higher level ones, there's going to be some serious casualties. The question becomes, what you're going to find at some point, and I'm treading that thin line, you're going to have some survivors that have some decent skills, have some decent innate abilities, separate of the gear that you want to utilize. But because of the injuries that they have, Now you need to make a decision because they've been crippled. The insanity is just, the mental trauma is pushed through. At that point, you have to make a decision where, do I continue pouring in resources and specializations as they hunt, gaining experience through the KDM experience system, or do I cut my loss, retire them, and now have that experience going on someone that's sound of mind and of body? And when you retire the character, you kind of put them on hold. This is now where, and it's pretty grim and brutal to say this, you might have a very powerful character, but has been crippled. I mean, great abilities on the ability cards, but has now been crippled in body. They might be, when you make that jump to level 2, level 3, they might have to be the sacrifice. They might have to be the character that, again, knowing the behavior of this way, you want to hunt the lower monsters so you get an idea, but you don't want to hunt too many because then you'll be starved for resources. With that idea of how the hunt works, going against the top monster, sacrificing that character based on the AI of the monster, so this way you can attack with powerful attacks your other survivors. You can get, I was going to say rear arc, battle tech, right? You can get rear, weak spot, blind spot on the monsters and really deal that damage. This is the chance through sacrificing that character, because they're just going to get completely mauled. That's the chance to score that big pull of resources. And for me, this is hard because you become attached to your characters. Even after so many playthroughs, it's really, really hard. But that's one of the ways to utilize them. Have them go out with a big bang, become a hero to the settlement, and make sure that the experience goes on new survivors so they're constantly leveling up, so you constantly have them in the queue.